Thanks everyone for joining again. Um, this is a series of sessions that COS is doing on in partnership with Google Cloud. This is one of the initial sessions where we're covering data warehouse modernization, and specifically we'll be covering BigQuery. We've got a very exciting set of speakers today, and we will be diving into a fair bit of depth on what BigQuery is, what is the differentiation that it has as compared to some of the other solutions out there. So I think it'll be a great experience for all of you. I'll just get started with the presentation. All right, so we've got a concise agenda today. The first is going to be a high-level overview of what the industry landscape looks like currently, especially relevant if you are a CIO or a chief digital officer or in charge of the data analytics platform in your organization. Rakesh Mohandas from Google will be covering this aspect for the first about 10-15 minutes. So it'll be a high-level overview of what the landscape is like, what are the other warehouses out there, what are the challenges that some of the businesses are facing in modernizing the data warehouse. And then we will jump into a more sort of concrete assessment of what you should be looking at when you're migrating from a legacy system to BigQuery. So what are the steps involved in the migration? How can you design a framework to help you migrate onto BigQuery? And then towards the end, we have a demo. So just to give you a little bit of flavor on a hands-on experience of what BigQuery looks like. So before we jump into the session, I'll just give an introduction of what Sears is. I'm sure some of you have heard about it. We are an 800 people strong company, now global. We've got 13 locations all across the globe. We've got offices in the US, in the UK, in Singapore and South Korea, along with other offices in those geographies. We were established back in 2006. We started as a G Suite partner, one of the first companies to partner up with Google in India. Our founder Hardik had, he had a lot of faith in the Google ecosystem and how he bet really big on how Google would grow in India. So it was we were one of the initial partners in India to begin with in 2006. And we started off with a G Suite practice, and we moved on to develop our own products on top of some of the early G Suite products. If you remember App Engine, that was like a standalone offering that came even before GCP was formally launched. So we built an HR product on top of App Engine. We gained some experience with Google Cloud hands-on, and so we are in perfect shape to help other customers also get onboarded onto GCP. So we partnered up with GCP back in 2015. It's been a great ride ever since. We were the first partner globally to get to the Premier Partner status. We recently also launched Recognic, which is an AI platform built on top of Google Cloud. Several recognitions from Google over the years. We've won Partner of the Year several times for APAC and JPAC. Also, especially in the digital native space, we've got great clients. You can see Dunzo, we've got Rapido, InShots, all of these customers in India and abroad. So digital native space is something we understand really well. We understand you want a hands-on experience with products before you start using them. So we have a great set of packages which we can talk about towards the end. That'll help you get that hands-on experience before you make the switch. And in introducing the speakers for today, the first speaker is Rakesh Mohandas. He's a cloud customer engineer at Google. He specializes in the data and analytics space. He had been with IBM for about 10 years and moved to Google last year. He was with the IBM Watson team. So great experience. And he will talk about the industry landscape at a high level. And then going through the BigQuery product and the migration roadmap is Sagar Jawan. He's our associate director for data engineering, and he has experience with several large data migration projects that he has driven himself. So he's the best person to talk about migrations. And then we have our lead cloud architect, Satish, who will give you a little bit of a flavor, a demo on what BigQuery looks like. So let's get started. Over to Rakesh for the first segment.
Thanks, everyone. So my agenda for today is just briefly explain about Google's offering in the data warehouse space. So what I'll do is before we get into Google, BigQuery data warehouse, I'll just give a quick overview about why the entire data warehouse concept needs to be relooked at, right? So if you see some of the stats which IDC has also mentioned, there's a huge amount of data that's getting exploded, right? So, and there's a lot of stats on the amount of data that we are kind of generating every day. So for example, if you see today's data, 90% of today's data in the world has been created in the last 2 years. Just around 2 years, we just created 90% of the data. That means for the next 5 years, this data is gonna triple or 4 times increase, right? And this is one of the study that was conducted by IDC, where in 2018 there was around 33 zettabytes of data, and we are going to see a huge increase in that amount of data that we are going to store, right? So it's be around 175 zettabyte of data, and the amount of data is exploding, and it's important that you have a data warehouse which will be able to analyze such a huge or vast amount of information, right? And again, the same, this one that, today we are not just talking about a batch data pipeline, but we're also talking about data which might come as a real-time data, right? So this data could be something which is generated by your IoT system, or even your clickstream data and other data which the system is kind of generating, right? So it's important that the data warehouse or any system which is actually working needs to get this data as a real-time inserts into the warehouse. Not only do that, but also does analytics on top of it, right? And if you see some of the hinderings on the traditional data warehouse, it's because of this vast amount of data that is actually growing. It's important that the system can scale that amount of information. It's not just storage of information, but it's also processing of those information, right? That's the most important one. And the second one is currently, if you see a lot of a traditional data warehouse, the data is not fresh. That means you always take the batch data into your warehouse and then run a lot of analysis, right? The third part is most of this data needs to have restriction. You need not give access to everyone, but it needs to give access to certain set of users. So things like row level access, column level access, or even table level access is something which has become mandatory requirements from most of the warehouse. The next part is on the machine learning. Today's warehouse will not be able to run the machine learning models within the warehouse, but usually what you do is you take the data outside the warehouse, and because the data is huge, you might not work with the entire data. You might say that, okay, I will take the sample, a representative sample from the warehouse, and then run your analysis. That's another hindrance with your traditional warehouse. And because the data is huge, you are going to spend a huge amount of money in basically storing or doing the processing of your data, right? So since all these things will hit the IT budgets, and even running your license for the data warehouse is going to be kind of a cumbersome activity, right? Now, how Google Cloud solve these challenges? What we do is we have a petabyte data warehouse solution called as Google BigQuery, which is purely serverless, right? What does it mean for you is you don't need to specify the number of workers or number of nodes that is required in order to run the BigQuery ecosystem. That is one. Second is you can also insert your real-time data or your batch data, right? And some of the batch data uploads is free of cost. That means you don't need to pay for uploading the data into BigQuery, right? The way we actually price BigQuery is in terms of the data storage and the number of data that you are going to scan within the data warehouse, right? And the other advantage that you get is Google BigQuery has decoupled your storage and compute, so you don't need to scale this, together, right? So you can scale this independently. And some of the unique features that we have is serverless. You can insert the data in real time, and you can, run your analysis or your dashboards in real time too. What we also have done in the recent past is we have also incorporated machine learning models within the BigQuery system, which we call it as BQML. What does it mean for you is you don't need to take the data outside the BigQuery instance for running any of your machine learning models, but you can run it within the data warehouse itself. What we also introduced recently is the high-speed in-memory BI engine. So you don't need to run all your queries directly every time into BigQuery, but you can also work on the data which has been cached. So for example, there are certain queries that has been repeatedly queried within the data warehouse. It caches that information, and everybody can access that information for running your analysis. Given all these things, what we've also done is we have also kept the security of the data warehouse with all the access privileges that needs to be provided. And if, say, for example, there are certain data that should not be shown to users, will also help enable that, right? So we also have something called as Cloud DLP, which helps you to scan certain parts of the information, right? Things like the PII information, like mobile number, or say, for example, name of the customer, email address, or PAN card, Aadhaar card. The system identifies, scans this information. And if you don't want to share this information for a certain set of users of BigQuery, you can redact this information. While redacting, you can still run your analysis. You can do your merging, your appending, and other things, right? And if you see, these are some of the customer who's actually used our solution. Like Tokopedia, who is actually analyzing the traffic data in real time, and then creating some of the dashboards to the users. And you also have a Blue Apron, who is using, who's actually inserting 140 million events per day to accelerate business decision, right? In terms of access restriction, Home Depot has created multiple projects, and they've actually shared these projects across different users based on the access that they have, right? And even 20th Century Fox is using BigQuery ML models to basically identify the right audience for their movies, right? So if you see what can BigQuery do, there are a lot of things which BigQuery can do, but for today's session, we'll just cover 4 aspects, right? One is on how to run machine learning models within BigQuery system. That is one, because most of the users are using Sheets for doing their reporting. So you can connect BigQuery instance directly to connect it to Google Sheets and run your analysis, right? The third part is how do you democratize the entire BigQuery? Today, majority of the users will write SQL queries to access the data or to do data preparation. But what if we give an access where people can start asking questions in simple plain English, and the system can provide the response as a graph or a chart, right? And finally, because majority of the users want to run the same BigQuery interface across different other cloud vendors, we also introduced something called the BigQuery Omni, which we'll just cover in the next section, right? So if you see BigQuery ML, as we are saying, I mean, you can run all your models within a simple, SQL commands, right? So you can just say create model, and you can specify what is the target that you're looking at for predicting, and the input parameters which will be used for prediction. So that's the first step, that you'll create a data set. The second part is you'll write simple queries to create the models, and finally use it for prediction, right? So the model development will be done within the warehouse without any transfer of the data. Once you have done that, you can actually evaluate how good is the model, right? So you can build these models not just for one one category. You can do it for multiple categories. That means if I have 10 segments, I can create 10 different models, and I can actually bring all these models together to basically use it for my forecasting, right? So if you see the next slide, it's as simple as pretty much 2 to 3 step procedure. You create a model command, specify what model you want to build. You specify the target of interest, and the system will be able to build the models, right? So once you build the models, you can use the prediction command to predict, on the other set of data, right? So once you have this, you can actually quickly create a dashboard and run your analysis, right? Now the good part of BQML models is you don't need to run this as a batch process. So once you build this model, you can expose this model outside, right? So you can make it as an online prediction model. That is one. Or if you want to export this model, so you build the model within the warehouse, and you can, if you want to export it to an external system, you can also do that. The second part is on making the insights accessible. There are multiple different ways you can actually work with BigQuery. One of the usual ways is writing a simple ANSI SQL commands within the BigQuery interface. That's one way. The second way is we have Data Studio for creating dashboards, right? The third way is actually using Google Sheets, right? So you can actually connect your Google Sheets directly into BigQuery, and you can do your pivoting, your aggregations and everything, right? It's as simple as just go to Google Sheets command, Google Sheets window, just specify the data, connect to the database, right? And then you can run your analysis down here, right? So even if your data is petabytes, still you can run all your aggregations, all your pivoting and everything, right? So this would be the one way you can interact with BigQuery. You can also run your pivoting and other functionalities down here. So once you have done this, you can actually share it across to users for running your analysis. In the same window, you'll also have data Q&A where you can start asking the questions rather than you pivoting it, right? And the system will be able to get a response as a chart or a graph. The third part is on the automated delivery. So today what happens is majority of the users would like to create all this pivoting or create the dashboard, but there's a second way of how you can ask questions to BigQuery, right? So we have recently introduced something called as data Q&A. So instead of you writing SQL or creating charts using Data Studio or doing the pivoting and charts using Google Sheets, the fourth mechanism in which you can actually talk to the data warehouse is through BigQuery Q&A, right? So it's just like the one which you're seeing here, you can just start asking the questions and the system will identify what are the attributes it needs to aggregate and bring that into the system. So now this is available currently for Google Sheets. It's also available for chatbots. That means your chatbots can connect directly to your warehouse and start responding to your questions. So that means anybody who are on Move and wants to ask the question, they can ask using simple, natural language querying, right? And for the hybrid one, so what we have done is, because we have seen a lot of customers having data across different platforms, it's very difficult to bring the data directly into Google Cloud, right? So one of the mechanisms that we have used is if the data is in, say, for example, S3 bucket, right? And you want to run the query, you don't need to bring the data into BigQuery, right? So it can be residing in S3 storage on AWS. What we do is we actually put a Dermal engine into AWS region, and we can start analyzing the data. The advantage that you get is there's no movement of data between both the cloud providers, and you can run your analysis on the familiarity of the BigQuery interface, right? So that's the advantage that you get within our BigQuery solution.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, thank you for joining this session about the data warehousing modernization. Okay, and I will take you in a journey where, like, how you can do the data warehouse modernization by migrating the legacy data warehouse on GCP or BigQuery. So I will cover those points. So, like, I worked on many migration projects here. Okay, so I migrated the many the legacy data warehouse on BigQuery there. Okay, and recently I migrated the one data warehouse for the retail, one entertainment or fintech sector. Okay, so I worked on the different sector there to migration there. Okay, and if you see, okay, so basically the typically the legacy data warehouse looks like by this like this architecture here. So there are different data sources they have, like sales management data, marketing data, master data tables are there, manufacturing, budget and forecasting. So different data sources are stored, different database systems there, MySQL, Postgres. Few things comes in a file from vendor. Okay, and then they deploy the enterprise data warehouse system there, where they need to create one pipeline to pull all the data from the different sources and push that data into your enterprise data warehouse. Okay, where they do some transformation and the aggregation kind of thing they do there, and on top of it they build the legacy BI report and dashboard, and the end user or data analyst see those, consume those dashboards. A data analyst directly do the querying on the data warehouse there. Okay, to see the data and do some analysis. One more pipe is there is like for operational pipeline, where the operation team see how the data warehouse is functioning there, all the retail jobs are running properly or not. So generally they use this pipeline to see that, fix the issues. Okay, so this is a typical architecture of the data warehouse. Okay. So after doing the multiple migration, okay, we reached, or like we identified one migration framework here. Okay, so using that framework, you can easily do your migration of your legacy system to the GCP and BigQuery. You can do that part. Okay, so basically, like the migration is always the complex and lengthy work. Okay, you have to spend more effort there, time there to do that migration. So it should be the do in proper format. Okay, so this framework will give you, okay, option to organize and structure your migration work in phases. So you can divide your all the migration in phases there. So if you see on if you see here, like we divided that in 3 phases. First phase is like prepare and discover. Okay, here like you will understand what is the workload, how much you have to work, or how much workload you have to migrate in this migration plan. Okay, the second point is what, like use cases. What are the different use cases we need to consider here? Okay, so like we need to identify that part. Okay, then the assessment and plan. Okay, so after the identifying your workload, use cases, then the next step is like assess, you do the assessment and plan your migration properly. Okay, so here like you have to do the prioritize your use cases, define the success criteria, define the plan, how your migration will be done. Okay, so each step I will explain in detail. Okay, so this is the overview of that phase. Okay, so assessment and plan is like the understand, prioritize your thing, understand what is your success criteria when you can consider this migration is done, and plan it properly. The next step is like execute. Now the execute is divided in 3 steps here. Okay, so the execute is generally what we generally prefer here. Instead of the migrating everything at a time like a big bang project, instead of that, like migrate gradually. So take one use case, migrate that use case, migrate their end users there. Okay, validate things, and again take the next use case. So gradually you can migrate that part, and you can every time on every iteration you can evaluate what is happening there. Okay, what measures or what changes we need to do in our plan. You can easily do that part. Okay, so in execute there are 3 steps. One is the migrate offload, then second is the migrate full, and third is the verify and validate. Okay, so migrate offload is kind of thing where you just migrate the schema and data from your existing or legacy data warehouse to BigQuery. Okay, and then who is consuming that data? Those applications, those downstream applications, you will migrate. Okay, so user can directly start consuming or using the new platform easily without doing the changes in your ingestion pipeline. Okay, the second is like the migrate. Okay, full means whatever you did in your migrate offload, you have to follow those all steps. The only thing is that the upstream data pipeline, you have to migrate those upstream data pipelines also to pull the data from data warehouse to push into the BigQuery. So that pipeline you have to create. That is a full migration. And verify and validate is what, like whatever you did in this migration for one particular use case. Okay, validate, like you really achieve that, what you achieve there. Okay, what are the return on investment? Okay, based on the time, performance, and cost. Okay, so that is a validating of your one use case. Okay, so you can make the required corrections in next iteration. Okay, if you face anything here issues, you can make that correction. So this is the overall framework like we generally follow. Okay, so let's deep dive in each step here. So first is the prepare and discovery. So in prepare and discovery, like first we need to find what is the value proposition we will get from the BigQuery. So here we need to understand like what is the expected benefits we need from the BigQuery, what performance we are expecting here, what are the concurrency we are expecting here, because we need to do the massive parallel processing here. Okay, then the TCO, like the how much cost we can save by migrating on the BigQuery. So that is a like the value proposition we need to identify, and to do that, like we need to connect with the different stakeholders, the data analyst to business decision maker. Okay, we need to connect with each one to understand like what they are expecting from this migration, and we need to cover that in value proposition, like what we have to achieve by after this migration. Okay, that we need to identify. Then the TCO analysis, like what we are spending in current infrastructure or current system, and if we move there on BigQuery, or how much we can save there. That we need to understand. After the understanding these two things, okay, like we will start the discovering or like estimate the find the use cases, different use cases, like what are the different use cases are there which we need to migrate in this migration. So to identify use cases, we need to ask the few questions. Okay, so like what is the objective of use case? What is the business value from that use case we will derive? Okay, how much like when the data frequency, like what is the data frequency or data freshness you want? You want the real-time data, you want the batches, what type of batches you want, like 15 minutes, hour, 1 day data is enough there. Then after the identifying use cases, what are the dependencies on each other? You need to identify that part. Okay, so on that basis only you can decide the priority of the your priority of the use case in your project plan. The next step is what, like for that use cases, what are the source data you need to identify, how you will feed that data into the BigQuery. Okay, that we need to identify. Then what BI tools, like these for these use case, these are the data sets and these are the tables, and these BI tools, reports and dashboard are consuming this data. Okay, so we need to identify. So when we will move those tables or data set, that time we will move the BI tools also, downstream applications also we need to move there. We need to just identify that part. And then the requirement of the operational need, performance, authentication, network bandwidth requirement for that use case, we need to identify. Okay, so how like what is the use case here? So basically a use case is like, this is a logical grouping of the three different components. Upstream data pipeline. Okay, so from where data is coming, what is the source, what technology you will use to like bring that data or extract that data, then what are the your data sets and procedures you are going to use in your you are going to create in your data warehouse. Okay, that is the second component. Third component is who is going to consume that data. So these three components we need to bring, that is one logical group. Okay, and then objective to achieve the business value. So what we are going to achieve, like after doing this migration of this one use case or these three logical components, like three component logical grouping of three components, what we will achieve, we need to identify. That is the one use case. So here, like let's discuss a few examples here. Okay, so for example, like what you can do, like you need to identify use case, assign some user stories for it. Let's say example is a like price analyst. He's asking me like, I want to analyze the price changes over the last years. Okay, on that basis, I can calculate the future prices. Okay, so this is my user story. Okay, for one particular use case. Okay, so here then I will start identifying like what are the transactional tables we need to consider here. Yes, products and the stores and the prices we need to consider here. Then I need to do the joins or lookup of those products and price. So that is a transformation step. Okay, where like I will keep, or I will transform that data in a way, in a time series. Like what was the cost like in Jan month, then when it is changed. So I will do for all the products there, and then storing that data in data warehouse. Okay, and after that, that price analyst will use his Python notebook to do the further analysis here. Okay, so in that basis, this is an example like identifying the use cases. Okay, so what is the business value for this use case? It's like support pricing analysis. That is the business value or outcome of the doing all this exercise, or for the you will achieve from the migrating this use case here. There are other use cases also, like the recommend the product based on market trends and user purchase behavior. Then like business team wants the report, the profit and losses report. Like the operational team wants to do like predict the flight delay. Okay, so and then track the product sale volume also. Like the supply chain management wants to, a team wants to do that one. So these are the different objectives are there. Like on that basis, you decide what is use case we need to migrate there. So I worked with one retail sector where what they wanted to see, like the business team wanted to see like the cost benefits analysis. What is the cost benefits analysis? Retail store, they have a multiple retail stores or chain of the store in all over the India. Okay, so they want to understand like the store manager want to understand, or state manager or the area manager want to understand stock in hand, operational cost of the doing all the exercise. The sales team wants to understand like the distributor secondary distributor secondary sale, how it is going on, sale from the store, how it is going on, the primary sale or direct sale. Okay, so these are the use cases generally we identify, on that basis we start the migration. After the first step or first phase, like prepare and discovery, we will understand like what we have to transform or what we have to migrate there. Okay, then we will start and what are the use cases, and then we will start the assessment of the use cases. Okay, and plan for it. Okay, so for assessment, so we need to understand like where we are right now. Okay, then what works good with the current system and what doesn't, we need to understand. It will help you to design or shape your requirement for your migration efforts. Okay, so what are the requirements to do that migration efforts? Okay, then classify your use cases, add some more information for it, description, and then assign one priority for that use case. Suppose you have 100 use cases, so you assign the priority. What is the priority of that use case based on your business outcome? It will be helpful for us to plan it. Okay, create a backlog grooming. Okay, that for that, like it will be very helpful for us. Okay, that's where like we need to like classify the use cases there. Then the understand like the what are the measures, like when you will decide like the successfully migration is done. But before that, defining a definition of the done, when you will define or when you will declare, okay, that migration is done for one particular use case. Those are the things like the pipelines are migrated, data is migrated, end users are migrated. That is a definition. Yes, done. We migrated this use case. Now measures, like really we achieved the performance, really we reduced the cost or not, or like what time we save here, that or what modernization we did here. That is a measurement we need to understand. Like for a particular use case or for every use case, we should have some success criteria and how to validate that success criteria, that we need to define. After the doing that, like we should take 2 or 3 use cases or few use cases, okay, and do the POC and just determine like whatever plan we are doing, whatever migration approach we are doing, really it is helpful or not. It will just like it will do you the litmus test here, okay, to understand like just whatever we are planning, yes, we are getting performance also, and we are saving the cost also. So that is one thing we need to do, small POC before doing before starting your migration. Okay, next plan. Next point is like after now you have all assessment points there. Okay, and then you have all the use cases with the priority. Now you have to decide like where to start and like what needs to be take like from which use case you should start. Like based on the business needs, you need to decide that for which use cases we should take first. Okay, so this deciding order is very crucial part or very important part there. Okay, so generally what I prefer, okay, when I do some migration, even there are many use cases are there, I take few low hanging fruits there. Okay, those use cases, those are the few simple use cases, but easily we can migrate and we will get the early success there. Okay, so by doing that, like we get some confidence on new platform. Okay, the confidence will build there, and it is very helpful us or crucial to continue your the cloud adoption path. Okay, so then after that confidence, like you can start migrating things on cloud very easily there, and that it will help you to do the cloud adoption also. You understand many things while doing those simple use cases. Okay, so that is plan here. So as per your use cases, you decide that backlog bucket. Okay, what should be the take first and what is the second. Okay, after doing that, this assessment and plan, now the point is like the execution. Okay, so yes, now everything is ready there. All the documentation, every assessment, planning, everything is done. Now the time to execute things. Okay, so in your bucket, like you take if you see like the priority wise, the use case backlog is there. You take a first backlog or first use case there. Okay, and then start the execution plan. Okay, and start the execution as per the given steps here. Okay, so here here there are two ways, okay, to do that. Okay, so first full migration, and second is like the offload. So in this iteration, like in full migration, you follow all these 7 steps. Okay, so here like the downstream pipeline you have to migrate, you have to do the data migration, you have to do the upstream application migration also, you have to do that. Okay, so these are the steps. We will just cover those steps in next slides there. Okay, and after the going by each step here, okay, you will release your use case, or you will release your that whatever you migrated in that use case, you will release for end user, and then you will take the next iteration. Okay, so that's the part of it. Is a continuous process. Okay, till all the use cases are not migrated, and your workload is not migrated from enterprise data warehouse to BigQuery. Okay, so first step, like setup and data governance. So it is very important. Like you have to do the foundational step, and this is like the mostly comes in a first use case only. When you deploy that time you need to define everything: organization, create a GCP project, define a network, VPC, subnet, IAM roles. You have to design everything: who is going to access, who the developer, what developer is going to do there. You have to set up that whole infrastructure here. You have to plan for data governance also, like how the data will be in the life cycle of the data. Okay, who will access that data, what are the different responsibilities are there, and those whole pipeline of the data life cycle, you have to achieve that. So BigQuery provides the column level security, row level security. You need to define that, and accordingly you have to create the IAM roles and assign those roles to particular user and user groups there. So that is the first. Set up your project, or set up your infrastructure, and prepare a policy for a data governance. The next step is like migrate your schema. So basically there is a BigQuery provide one service, is data transfer service. If you extract your data from the existing data warehouse, you can easily using a data transfer service, you can easily load that data in the BigQuery. You can so in this step, like what you will do, whatever data in your current data warehouse, you can migrate that as is there. Okay, and then if required, like you can do the schema optimization there. Okay, so you can define the partition key, clustering key based on your select workload, or how you are reading the data. On that basis, you can decide that what is the partition key, what is the clustering there. You can, there is one more thing you can do in a better way here, like instead of creating multiple dimension or fact table, you can denormalize your structure. Okay, so instead of creating the flat table, even in legacy data warehouse, we generally go for if you didn't get good performance for the dimension or fact, you try to do the flat table, and again the maintaining that flat table is again one more challenge there. Here you can do the nested. You can create a nested like array or the structure. Okay, so you can keep a dimension data in that row only. Okay, so it will help you to query your data. Okay, no need to do more joins there, but at the same time you can get the benefit of the flat tables also. Okay, and it is very easy to do that. So it is not only 2-dimension table you have to create. You can create you can add the array or the structure in your one row also. So that is best thing you can do here. The next is to translate your queries. So yes, all the whatever queries you are executing in your current data warehouse, you can do here also. But there are few things are not not exactly matching there. We need to change those few things here. Okay, so for DDL, like you cannot create an index, multi-set and volatile. That is not possible. In types, yeah, you have to do like the you have to do the mapping of the types. Okay, then like for few DML queries, you cannot use as is there. Okay, so you need to change that. Here in BigQuery, like it gives you the one good option, like the merge query. Okay, merge query is help you to upsert, cover the upsert scenario. In many data warehouse or legacy data warehouse, like doing the upsert is really very difficult task. Okay, so here in one transaction only you can do the upsert, like you can insert and update the record. Okay, from your Delta data. So that is a good thing. You can write a store procedure. Yes, here you can write a store procedure. If for the you can design the workflow in Cloud Composer. Cloud Composer is one of the tool GCP provides where you can orchestrate all the pipelines there. So that thing you can do here. Okay, so this is the one thing is a translate query. After the translating your query, the migrate business application. Okay, so whatever application currently those are connecting to your legacy data warehouse system, you can start pointing those to the BigQuery datasets. So using a BigQuery API and connector, you can point, you can connect notebook or your custom application to BigQuery using a BigQuery API and connector. BigQuery provides the API and connectors there. For dashboard and reports, easily you can use the ODBC and JDBC drivers there to connect there. Okay, then you can connect your spreadsheet like G Suite spreadsheet, MS Office using a BigQuery connector. You can connect there to BigQuery and you can consume that data and you can do whatever analysis you want to do there. Okay, if the data analysts are doing something, then we have a BQ UI, BQ ML. Okay, that they can use here. The migrating upstream pipeline. So this is the one point where the basically like we need to decide like what we want first. Okay, if you you can skip this step or initially. Okay, but after migrating all use cases, definitely you have to do this step. But first, what you can do, the quick release, like the load all your data warehouse data on your BigQuery, migrate your downstream application and start consuming data from BigQuery and see performance. Okay, how cost you can save there. In that case, the data from your legacy system data warehouse, it will come to your BigQuery. Okay, that is the offload migration. Full migration is like you have to modify your the ingestion pipeline and pointing to the BigQuery. So right now those pipelines are the pushing the data in your existing data warehouse. You need to modify and start the pushing those delta data or incremental data in your BigQuery there. Okay, so these are the two steps. Okay, depends on your use case or depends on what you want. Okay, so if you want the quick release and understand like really BigQuery is helping you or not, then don't go for the full migration. First do offload, and then if you confirm that like you have confidence that yes, BigQuery is solving your problem, then you can do the full migration. So there are 2-3 ways of doing. So suppose like a strategy to like the modifying the upstream pipeline, like if you want to keep your pipeline on your on-prem currently. So what you can do, first step like ETL, where extract and transform whatever you are currently right now you are doing, you do the same thing. Extraction means like the pulling the data from the source and transform it. Okay, and load, only that part you need to change in your existing pipeline, where you need to write a data on the BigQuery using a BigQuery API or any files you can load there. So that is the one thing, like existing pipeline, you can just change the load part and done. Or what you can do, like you can change everything, like the ETL, like extract data from your old pipelines and load data directly first to BigQuery, and write some store procedure, saved query or scheduled query. Using those, you can transform your data. That is also one more thing you can do. Yeah. Second part is like if you want to modernize the upstream pipeline also by moving them on the GCP cloud. So there are different options available here. So like your existing pipelines, like if they are written in the Hadoop, Spark, and Flink, you can easily migrate them on Dataproc without changing your code. Okay, or minor code you need to change there. If you are using any third-party tool, you can migrate that third-party tool from your on-prem VM to like on GKE or VMs, or like those tools also available on marketplace of GCP. So you can easily use those tools there. Okay. Then if you want to do something total rewriting of the pipeline, re-architecting of the pipeline, so it is a really good thing. Then you can use the data flow natively. It is natively available on GCP. Data Fusion is also available, and Data Proper. All three services you can use for the building your the upstream pipeline. The next is like optimize performance here. Okay, so after doing everything, like you need to optimize your performance. Like you need to see like the how much slots you are using. There is an option like you can use a fixed slot also. You can use the on-demand pricing module also. Then you have to optimize your queries. You need to check like the query execution plan and where is the issue. Then you can change your partition column. You can change your clustering column based on the query execution. You can decide that and the performance of the query. Okay. Then create a few external sources there that also you can use that. Okay. In query optimization strategy, generally like we go for the partitioning. We see like what is the read workload, how we read data from one particular table and choose one column for the partitioning. Clustering for the ordering data in that partition. Okay. Denormalize. This is like nested and repeated fields. You can easily keep in your that table only. No need to create additional dimension tables for it. Okay. Then yeah. Then in for a few cases, like you can use the approximate aggregation function where you don't want exact the number, where you can use that approximate. It gives you the output very faster there. Okay. Then avoid anti patterns or SQL anti patterns, like using the minimize using the self join, cross join, like with works a bit differently in the BigQuery. There are other things also, but yes, those are not much. Okay, only 3 to 4 points you have to take care. Okay, and then it is done. Like you can optimize your performance also. Okay, and the last point is like before releasing your use case, verify and validate the things. Okay, so here you can test your all the functionality. Okay, and after the testing, validating things, you release that part, and then do the measures like performance cost and like really you achieve your business value or not. From that you need to identify. Okay, and on that basis, like what you learn in this process, okay, you have to like make those correction in your next migration use cases. Okay, and just it is iterative. Gradually you will move your all workload. So when you middle of the something like when you are migrated few use cases, okay, that time your architecture or your landscape will look like this. Like this is a hybrid mode of during the migration. So a few users are connecting to your BigQuery, pulling consuming data from the BigQuery data warehouse. Few users are still using the existing data warehouse there. Okay, and there are two ways. Like if you see here, the either if you are going off mode, then you are pulling the data from enterprise data warehouse to BigQuery. If you are going to full mode, then you have to migrate your pipelines also at same time. But when during the migration, your architecture will look like stick. Like a few users are still using existing data warehouse or legacy data warehouse, or a few users are using the BigQuery. Okay, so one by one, like you will do this iteration. Okay, and after that, okay, after doing everything, after the full load offload, okay, then you will do all the upstream migration pipeline. Your architecture will look like this. Okay, so everything on GCP. Now, yes, your migration is done here. Okay, and yeah, and then you can after the few days you can retire your existing legacy, or you can terminate your legacy enterprise data. Okay, so this is overall the like framework we generally follow to do the or plan the legacy data warehouse migration. Yeah. Okay. I think I will hand over for demo to Satish. Yeah, Satish.
Yeah. Thanks all for joining the call. I think probably I hope you can see my screen. Right. Let me quickly get into the demo. The use case which we picked up for the demo is a car rental business. We will understand the challenges, the business goal, and the technology goal which we have achieved. Right. The car rental company had agencies across the location where their data resides in the silo. The challenge was that they did not have any centralized view of customer information, and always business loves to have a data-driven decision. And the technology goal which was given is that leverage the machine learning capabilities, understand the customer, and do an precise marketing based on the customers. So with this, we will quickly look into an end-to-end architecture of an ETL. I think in recent days, the data trend has driving a dramatic change in an ETL architecture. So what do we really mean by dramatic change is that a real time. I mean, everyone wants the data to be processed in a real time, better governance, a cost-effective solution, and always people love having a better tooling from a technical point of view, right? A better tooling. What do we relate at tech and better tooling is that in terms of ETL is that it should integrate well with the managed service. In the sense I'm talking about with the cloud native services, and could be an open source, containerized, dynamic scaling, and auto recovery. When we look at all these features, Cloud Composer is gonna solve all our problems, right? Cloud Composer is gonna run on a Kubernetes environment, and it is gonna use Apache Airflow. If you are from a data background, we already know that it's an Apache Airflow help us to orchestrate everything in a data pipeline in an easiest and a very flexible way. Okay, now let's quickly see our use case. Let's understand how the data is getting ingested and how do we visualize it. So the agencies are going to load the data in the form of batches to the cloud storage. We lineage the data in the cloud storage, and once the data has been lineaged in the cloud storage, what Cloud Composer does is it automatically invokes the job, picks up the data which is available in the cloud storage, and provisions and transient data pro cluster, process the data, transform the data, does the data massaging, and stores the result in a BigQuery. And also we will quickly look into the BigQuery and how easy it is to do a visualization, right, with the help of a data studio. It's a matter of a click. Okay, let me quickly jump onto the videos. So, okay. As we had a limited time, right, and we had a limited time constraint, what probably I will do is, what we have done is provisioning a Cloud Composer itself takes 7 to 8 minutes. So what we have done here is that we have done a pre-recorded video so that we can go through the complete flow. So what we are going to do is now that we are going to provision a Cloud Composer environment. I'm just getting into the Cloud Composer menu. I'm going to specify the environmental details. I'm going to click on create environment. I'm just going to give the name of the environment. I'm going to specify the location as a US Central, and the number of nodes is going to be in a 3-node cluster, and I'm specifying the zone. Next asset is going to be demo environment. I'm provisioning and bare minimal clusters which is required, the lower one. And this is the Apache Airflow version which we are going to select. And the next comes in the Python. I'm going to use the latest Python version and click on create. So what Cloud Composer is going to do is it is going to create an environment for us. It creates a Kubernetes cluster, and then it also, let's quickly look into it. What are the environments which Cloud Composer is going to provision for us? And also we will understand what are the things which we discussed earlier, right? It is going to install Apache Airflow, and we will also see that what are the environments which Cloud Composer has created for us. Let's quickly look into the environmental configuration. In environmental configuration, we can see that Cloud Composer has created an GKE cluster for us. And if we scroll down a little bit down, we will see that Apache Airflow, the DAC folders, and in this DAC folders, we comes up with a default job, which is the monitoring job which Cloud Composer uses. And if there are any specific custom configurations which you want to do, that is also possible. And we can also pass in the environmental variables, and based on our need, we can install the respective Python packages on the Composer environment. So it is going to install everything on the back of the Kubernetes nodes. Let's quickly see, visualize what Cloud Composer has created for us. Yes, it has created an Kubernetes engine. Let's quickly look into the configurations. What are the network configurations, security configurations it has created for us? and we already specified the 3 nodes. I could see the 3 nodes has been already provisioned for us. And the next comes in the storage. We have given a 30 GB of storage, so storage has been provisioned, and it also comes in with a default logging mechanism. And also on top of that, Cloud Composer creates a PubSub topic. We will quickly look into it, whether the PubSub topic has been created for us. Yes, Composer would have created a PubSub topic for us. And with our use case and whatever we discussed, right, it should not create any data proc clusters at this moment. What we discussed is we will be provisioning an transient cluster which process the data. So at this moment, the data has not been lineaged. So let's also quickly look whether is there any data proc cluster has been provisioned for us. Yep, I think it has not provisioned any data proc cluster at this moment. Let's go and configure the injection part. It could be that, and in our particular use case, it is going to be a storage bucket. I'm getting into the storage menu. I'm going to create an storage bucket in the region where we are going to where the data is going to reside, right? It could be a multi-region, but probably in this use case, I'm going to create a regional bucket. I'm specifying the name of the cloud storage as a demo ETL, and I'm going to give a regional bucket, and I'm going to specify the location. And the storage bucket has been created. Now what we will do is that we will create an input folder where the agencies are going to put the data. So it could be through GSUDL, or it could be an SFTP process. Whatever we want, we can have it. So now what all the agencies are going to do is that they're going to upload the data into this particular storage bucket in the form of batch jobs. Now let's quickly get into the back to the Cloud Composer menu, and we will understand how are we going to create a data pipeline. So I'm quickly getting into the Composer menu. Probably we will see the DAC folders. Now I'm into the DAC folder. Now we can see that the Airflow monitoring, which is a default DAC, which comes to monitor the Kubernetes environment. So what we will quickly do is that we will do a parameterized build. In the sense, we already created a Python script to process the data. Instead of hard coding everything, what we will do is we will parameterize everything. We will specify the input file, because the storage bucket is going to change for each and every agency. So in that case, what we are going to do is that we are going to do a parameterized build. So I'm going to specify the input parameter, and I'm going to specify a value in it. And probably next one is going to be I will also specify an output directory where the data has to be landed. So in our use case, what we will do is we will have a redundant copy in a storage bucket, and also parallelly we will load it in BigQuery. So we have specified the output directory, and the next comes in the zone. In which zone I want to provision. Probably I will have everything in a single region.
So for those who are interested, we can just stick back for another 5 minutes, and yeah, Satish can cover the demo. Over to you, Satish, again. Thanks.
Oh, okay, fine. That's fine. Got it. Okay, thanks. So now we have the list of the environmental variables, right? Whatever we created. So what the Cloud Composer is going to do is that with the environmental variables, whatever we specify, now we will get into the DAC folders, and we will upload the Python script which we have created. So what this Python is going to do is that it takes the data from the storage bucket, it processes it, it transforms it, and it loads into an BigQuery. So now once we have uploaded the Python script, the Airflow job has kickstarted. Now we can see an ETL processing job which has been kickstarted, and also we will look at what the ETL is going to do. People from a data background will really understand the beauty of Airflow. It has many beneficials. Where the one which we could talk about is that it will create a temporary cluster. It will execute the script whatever we have placed in, and then it will delete the cluster. And also we have good color coding, right? We can see the job status, whether if it is failed, it shows in a different color code, and what is the progress of each and every job. We can get all this information, and moreover, most of the things are going to be a nightly job in case of any failure. What we should do, what kind of alerting we need to set up, if there is any flash in the data. do we need to move it to a separate storage bucket? All these things can be automated using the DAX, I mean using the Apache Airflow. So now we have seen that it has provisioned a cluster for us, and which is in dark green, and then probably the Hadoop, the Python script which you have created is also completed. Then once everything is being done, the data will be loaded to an BigQuery, and it is now you can see that the deletion of cluster is in progress. It is running. This particular job is running. Probably it will get completed. So maybe I will quickly run through it in the interest of time. Yeah, now let's quickly get into the BigQuery and see whether the data has been loaded to the BigQuery. So I'm getting into the BigQuery menu now. It would have created a schema for us and the necessary tables. We have created a demo table in it, and the data would have been loaded to the demo table. This is being done as part of the ETL jobs. So now let's quickly query the table. I mean, select star is not always recommended in a production environment, as it is going to be in demo and it has very less volume of data. I'm just doing a select star here. So we got the results of the query, and the next thing which we want to highlight is that it's very simple and straightforward to integrate with the Data Studio, right? Just explore the data. You will have a clear visualization of what data which has been loaded. So it's a simple and straightforward from visualization point of view. I think that's all I have. I mean, over to you, Aditya. Maybe if you have any questions, we can take it up.
Yeah, thanks, Satish. All right, hopefully you can see it clearly. We've got three buckets in which we've segregated our commercial offer. The first is the early stage, at the stage where organizations like yours will look to just evaluate BigQuery and see if this is a good fit, if you have a use case for BigQuery. Is it meeting the success criteria that we have in mind, whether it be from the cost side or the performance side? So for the evaluation stage, we have the BigQuery Launchpad program. Here, given that the eligibility criteria here, which is 200 of eligibility criteria, which is 200K of projected BigQuery spend, Seers will conduct a proof of concept for you. What that proof of concept covers is we will ingest all of your historical data on which you want to test, and we will execute queries and the performance, and also compare it against criteria that you have defined. So we will do this end-to-end activity for you for free. So that's the first step. Once you have looked at the performance, you decided to onboard onto BigQuery. We've got the BigQuery onboard program. Now this is in cases where your data warehouse is not very, very large. So eligibility for this is about 300K and query projected around that range. And if you have decided to migrate, Seers will actually do the product migration for you as well. So on the sizing, we've limited this to about 1 TB data, 5 data source integrations criteria, but broadly that is the range up to which we can migrate your setup. And this is your entire production setup, right? So end to end. There is a stage, which is if you've got a large-scale data warehouse that you're already running. The Kubernetes on-prem, it could be Redshift, Snowflake. All of these other data warehouses, we want to migrate all of this full scale to GCP. Not only will we offer to deploy a complete production setup on GCP, but also give you credit. So there's $70,000 worth of GCP consumption credit that we're also providing. There is the range for the scale. The scale of spending is roughly the same as for the previous program, about 300K annual. But there is a commitment that you have to make, over 36 months, right? So either you can do 300K over 3 years, or you can do around $1 million in one year. So the total value is really what we're looking at. So about $1 million over 3 years is typically what we see customers comfortable with doing if they're operating at the scale, and you get a $70,000 in credit. So please feel free to reach out for any questions or queries. We can discuss these further. Would love to, if you guys would want further workshops as well. So this one was a very quick overview on what BigQuery can offer, just a little bit of flavor for you guys to see if you're interested. Please reach out to us if you want us to conduct a detailed walkthrough session or workshop. We'd love to do that for you and your team. So please feel free to write into us. Thank you.